The worst thing about starting and stopping your fitness journey isn't just about staying stuck at your current weight. It's that every single time you start a new diet or start a new workout plan, you erode a little bit of your self-trust. And if you keep this up a year from now, you won't simply just be struggling with the 20 pounds of weight loss goals. You'll be carrying the heavy belief that you are somebody that never finishes what she starts. And today I want to have a conversation that might be uncomfortable because today we're not talking about calorie cutting, we're not talking about the best exercises for fat loss. We're talking about the reasons why women keep starting and restarting their fitness journey over and over again. Simply the reasons that nobody talks about. And this has nothing to do with your capabilities. This has nothing to do with whether you're strong enough or not. Because let's be real, most of you understand the fundamentals or basics of how to lose weight. You know that protein matters. You know that strength training is very important to get to your goals. You know that various forms of cardio is definitely beneficial for your health and also going to help you reach your goals. But the problem isn't information. The problem is behavior. The problem is ultimately your psychology. Hey guys, it's Becca and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going over the ugly truths about why people keep starting and restarting their fitness journey. And if you are ready for more honest conversations about body recomposition, nutrition, and strength training, then don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more content just like this, and let's get into the video. Truth number one, you're chasing goals instead of building actual systems. So let's go ahead and visualize how some fitness journeys actually start. So you wake up one morning and you try on your favorite pair of jeans, and for some reason, they are simply not fitting like they used to. And at that moment, a switch flips on in your head. You need to be honest with yourself. You need to make a change. So you go ahead and set that goal. I want to lose X amount of weight. And of course, this is a great starting point. There's absolutely nothing wrong with obviously setting goals because goals are ultimately going to give you that direction and ultimately a destination. But the problem is those goals have zero power to carrying you through the most chaotic or even stressful days or weeks that will inevitably happen. And when you rely entirely on your goals, your execution most of the time will rely on those perfect conditions. Think about it, you download MyFitnessPal, now you're starting to meal prep every Sunday, and now you're telling yourself, hey, I'm gonna work out 5 times per week this week. And the first 2 or 3 weeks feels amazing. You feel like you're back on track. Not to mention your motivation is at a all-time high. But then life hits you. Things get busy, your kids probably get sick, work becomes extremely stressful. And now you've missed your Sunday meal prep. And because you did not meal prep, your meals or nutrition now feels super compromised. And within the next 2 weeks, that meal tracker is now on sleep mode on your phone. That meal planner is completely empty. And now you feel like you're completely off track once again. But did you actually stop wanting the goal? Did you actually stop wanting the results? No. You essentially built a plan that only works when life is easy. But the reality is the women that actually achieve their fitness goals don't build their routines around easy days. They build the routines that can ultimately survive the worst days. And every single habit or system that they build runs on a neurological loop. A cue, a routine, and ultimately the reward. The cue, the alarm goes off at 6 a.m. The routine, now you put on your workout clothes that you laid out the night before. Complete your lifting session. And then the reward, which is a physiological and psychological rush of accomplishment that you feel when you actually completed that task. And when you repeat this loop under varying conditions, your brain optimizes it and requires less brute force to actually complete the routine. So look at your environment right now. If your goal is to increase your protein intake, however, your pantry is completely filled with highly processed, highly palatable snacks, while your chicken and your lean proteins are frozen in the back of your deep freezer, you've already introduced massive friction. And we need to essentially engineer your environment to make the right choices the easiest choice. And if your entire fitness strategy collapses simply because life got hectic, that was never a system. It was just temporary motivation disguised as a plan. Truth number two, you expect results faster than your body will allow. Social media has ultimately fundamentally altered our perception of time. You're scrolling through your feed and you ultimately see so many women with defined shoulders, defined waists, and long legs. And our brain automatically assumes, no matter where you are in your current fitness journey, that I can look the exact same way in a few weeks to a few months. And don't get me wrong, I used to feel the exact same way, and that's why I would hop on the treadmill, I'd hop on the elliptical machine, I'd hop on any cardio machine just so that I can achieve those results as fast as possible. But what that transformation post doesn't ultimately show you is the weeks, months, or even years of dedicated effort, the unglamorous repetitions that it took to actually achieve that result. It doesn't show the weeks or the months of stalled progress that they actually endured. And what typically happens along our journey is the first week we are super excited, super motivated to start and achieve our goals. And by week 3, we still have a little bit of high hope. And by week 5, we are so frustrated at the fact that we have not lost the 30 pounds by now. Week 6, we're starting to doubt if what we're doing is actually even working. And by week 8, we're probably having another existential crisis and questioning if our metabolism is permanently broken. And that's where women quit. They throw their hands up in the air, abandon the plan, even though they were right at the precipice of meaningful change. And we need to understand that delayed gratification is the ultimate gatekeeper of a strong, lean physique. Results will show up after you've proven that you can keep going, even if you're not seeing the results that you want right now. But if you quit every single time, that timeline simply does not match your expectations. You are guaranteeing yourself that you will spend every single year perpetually trapped in week 1. Truth number 3, you keep waiting to feel motivated. Now, the idea that consistent women possess an endless supply of motivation is a lie we need to let go of. Listen, I love lifting weights. It's literally my passion and my career. But do I feel motivated every single time? Absolutely not. If I only trained when I had that massive surge of motivation, I would ultimately lose my hard-earned results within the next few months, because motivation is an emotion, and like all emotions, they fluctuate depending on what is going on in your life. And building a long-term physical transformation on top of motivation is simply not going to work. Think about brushing your teeth. When you wake up tired and stressed, do you sit on the edge of your bed debating whether you feel inspired enough to brush your teeth? Do you look for that inspirational, motivational quote on Pinterest or Instagram to get you to the sink? You simply do it because it's a non-negotiable standard of your daily habits. To break the cycle of starting over, we have to move from the realm of emotional negotiation to actual action. So when life gets super chaotic, you don't need to execute a perfect day, 90-minute workout, but you do need a minimum standard. On a perfect day, your standard might be that 45-minute heavy lifting session where you're hitting your protein targets as well. But on a day where everything seems to be crashing and nothing seems to be working around you, your minimum standard might be simply going out for that 20-minute walk during your lunch break and prioritizing at least protein at every meal. That minimum standard ultimately ensures that you're keeping that momentum alive. Truth number 4, you think that normal challenges mean that something is wrong. So let's go ahead and play out a scenario that I see destroying women's consistency every single week. So you step on the scale on a Friday morning and you see that it's jumped 2 pounds since a Thursday. You have an immediate wave of panic and you think to yourself, your program is simply just not working. You think to yourself that all this work that you've been putting in, the consistency with your diet, the consistency with your workouts is just not working. You're extremely exhausted from work later that evening, and now you've given in to emotional eating. And because you had that stressful day, you completely derail your entire weekend. You're feeling heavy, you're feeling guilty and deeply disappointed at yourself. And you think to yourself, you completely ruined your entire progress. But the reality is fluctuations, a missed workout, a slip up when it comes to your nutrition, these are entirely normal parts of your human fitness journey. We need to understand that progress is never linear. And the women who successfully ultimately loses that 20, 30, or even 40 pounds did not have a completely perfect journey. She experienced those skill fluctuations, the stressful life events. and the exact same cravings that you're probably experiencing, especially during the week before your period. The difference isn't that she didn't face those challenges. The difference is how she interpreted those challenges. And when that setback occurs, her internal narrative isn't "I ruined everything, I have no discipline, I might as well just give up and start over next month." Her internal narrative is more like, what is the very next best thing I can do for my body right now? Now, one internal dialogue is going to set you into a spiral of starting over, and the next is ultimately going to keep you pushing forward towards your goal. Truth number 5, you treat every mistake like a total disaster. Now, imagine you're walking down a flight of stairs and you accidentally trip on a single step. Would you just stand up, frustrated at your mistake, and consciously throw yourself down the remaining 3 flights of stairs just to simply finish the job? I hope not, because that's completely absurd. Yet that's the exact logical framework that women have when it comes to body recomposition, strength training, or even nutrition. Think about it, you're at the office in a meeting and you had one cookie. Instead of acknowledging it as a minor, enjoyable event that happened over the course of the 24-hour day, your mind might immediately go through, well, I completely ruined my diet. I might as well order that pizza and have the drinks tonight. And of course, we'll just start on Monday once again. That one cookie is a single slip step. And binging for the next 4 or 5 days and completely abandoning your training is you essentially throwing yourself down the rest of the staircase. You had an imperfect moment, so what? What you should be focused on is how quickly can you close the gap between an unfavorable decision and a favorable one. Like, for example, after eating the cookie, you can simply just eat the planned high-protein meal that you already planned. Truth number 6, you keep chasing the newest diet instead of learning how to eat sustainably for your goals. Now, you probably tried keto, low fat, low carb, juicing, or even the aggressive calorie cutting diets. And every single time that diet ended, you ultimately regained the weight back. And often, probably, especially if you're following those extremely aggressive calorie cuts, you probably lost muscle as well, because that strategy was not based off of your current life. And this is because the strategy that you used to lose that weight as fast as possible was entirely unsustainable for your life. Because this journey isn't about how miserable you can be for the next 8 weeks and survive that 8-week diet. It's about learning how to nourish your body to build functional metabolic muscle while systematically shedding that fat. And when you engage in chronic extreme dieting, your brain is ultimately going to associate fitness with survival and suffering. So think about if you're slashing entire food groups. Your energy is going to crash, your cravings are going to be out of control, your sleep is going to get worse, and your recovery ultimately becomes non-existent. Why? Because your body is literally begging for energy. And when you can't sustain the starvation anymore, you're going to quit. And then you're going to look for the next aggressive diet that is going to fix the damage that you just caused. When you stop treating your body poorly and start treating it like a system that needs to be built, that cycle of forever starting is going to end. Number 7. You're measuring the wrong scoreboard. Now, if your only tool of measuring progress is one number on the scale, you're going to set yourself up to quit your fitness program that might actually be working. So look at your strength progression, look at how your clothes are fitting, and also take those progress photos or find another way to measure your progress accurately. Truth number 8, your identity never shifts. Now, this is where standard fitness simply stops. But this is where the real permanent transformation actually begins. Your behavior will always align with your deepest identity. So if you still fundamentally see yourself as a person that struggles with consistency, struggles being an emotional eater, identifies as somebody who always quits when things get extremely difficult, you will subconsciously always find ways to self-sabotage yourself to meet that identity. Because your brain desperately craves alignment between what you believe about yourself and how you act. Because the ultimate goal of lifting weights, eating properly, isn't just to alter your body. Yes, that's definitely a benefit, but it's to change how you perceive your own capabilities. So start acting like the woman you want to become right now, because identity drives that behavior and your behavior will produce those results. Truth number 9, social media comparison is silently destroying your focus. So think about it. This morning, you're likely opening up your phone, scrolling through social media, and immediately comparing your messy, real life journey to somebody else's carefully curated highlight feed. And suddenly you feel extremely discouraged. Like, why am I working so hard and I don't look anything like that? This comparison trap is why so many women completely abandon their fitness journeys. You completely abandon your progressive overload program and chase the next program because you thought that that would give you faster results. And this is just going to set your progress back to zero. Now, there's nothing wrong with being inspired by somebody's work ethic and dedication it took to achieve their results. We have to realize that you're comparing your phase 1 to their phase like 30 or 40. And you're completely blind to the fact that they have experienced all of the difficult challenges that they had to overcome to achieve their goals. The reality is you should really only be comparing your day 1 to your day 30. How are you feeling now? Are you able to lift more weights? Your energy levels? How's your sleep? Are you even seeing any physical or mental improvements? Now, if the answer is yes, you're moving in the right direction. So we need to step out of everybody else's lane and stick to your own path. Truth number 10, you are perpetually waiting for the perfect time. You're telling yourself, I'm going to lock in right before summer. I'm going to lock in before holiday season. I'm going to start fresh as soon as life becomes less chaotic. But let's go ahead and speak with honesty, because we already know that there's no such thing as the perfect time. Life is not going to stop because you want to build muscle and lose fat. There's always going to be another holiday, another stressful season, another family emergency, another financial strain, another social event. But the women that actually achieve and even maintain the results are not focused on that magical stress-free window of perfect opportunity. When you wait for those perfect conditions, you are making your fitness journey dependent on a fantasy. And if you can only stay consistent when your calendar is completely clear, you're never going to stay consistent for more than 2 weeks at a time. So just stop waiting for those perfect conditions. Truth number 12, you're systematically losing trust in yourself. Now, every time you sit down and make that solemn promise to yourself that you're going to start training consistently, you're going to start locking in on your nutrition, and then you break that promise to yourself the next 72 hours in, your brain is taking that internal note. And when you break that promise to yourself over years, you are eroding your own self-trust. Eventually, you reach a point where you tell yourself, I'm going to get back on track on Monday. But deep down subconsciously, you don't actually believe that. You don't believe a single word that's coming out of your mouth. Essentially taught yourself that your promises mean absolutely nothing to you. And this self-trust manifests as deep anxiety, low confidence, and a constant reliance on external motivation because you can't trust your own internal compass. And rebuilding that broken self-trust is not going to be achieved by designing another massive, overwhelming, perfect plan. It's simply just not going to happen. You need to build that self-trust the same way you build that trust with a close friend, by making incredibly small promises and keeping them over and over again. So if you promise to take a 10-minute walk today, you have to do that walk. And as you accumulate these micro promises over time, your self-trust is going to actually heal and you begin to believe your voice again. So if you watch the video all the way to this point, I want you to step back and realize something. Not a single one of these ugly truths we just covered had anything to do with your physical capabilities, your worth, or even your intelligence. Because the problem was never you didn't understand that you need to diet and exercise to essentially achieve your goals. You've simply been trapped in a mental cycle designed only to rely on motivation and perfect conditions. And right now you're standing at the crossroads of two distinct options. Option one, you can close this video and wait for the next current motivation to naturally fade and continue the exhausting years-long cycle of starting over every single Monday. Or option two, you can decide that you're done being a professional starter and choose to actually implement realistic, sustainable habits to attain your goals and keep going on your fitness journey. So if you're ready to break this cycle, I want to invite you to join my 8-week body recomposition program, which is linked directly in the top line of the description below. Now, I did not design this program to be another restrictive, miserable crash diet or an all or nothing fitness challenge. that's ultimately going to leave you exhausted and burnt out. I built this program specifically for women who are ready to step away from the noise, build real metabolic muscle, drop the body fat sustainably, and master the daily systems required to make consistency completely automatic. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you inside the program or the next video.